There's all these little gadgets up here and keys and things. I don't want to mess anything up. To reiterate what I said at the beginning, it's an incredible privilege. This stage lighting is a little challenging. I know there's faces out there, but it's somewhat difficult to see. So if don't get nervous if I lean in. I'm not looking at anybody particular. I just love to see faces. But what an incredible work to hear about. Before I was here in Milwaukee, when I was still south of the Cheddar Curtain, I had people, the last 4 years in Chicago, I was an auxiliary bishop and Episcopal vicar for Vicariate 1, which is all of Lake County, and would hear about all of these guys crossing the border, going to something called the Men of Christ gathering, and the positive nature and the experience and all of those things. Heard about it long before I knew what it was. Never did I think that God would bless me to be part of it and to be able to support it. I cannot say enough in support of the team and all who have made these days, yesterday and today, possible to be able to find your way back into this expansive venue with about 3,100 people, 3,100 guys. What an incredible testimony to those who have worked so hard. So they deserve praise and that. And so I laud them publicly for all who were involved in creating this and making this possible. It's a privilege to be here. It's a privilege to be associated with Men of Christ. As far as the gospel readings, we're kind of in a thick patch, so to speak. So especially in cycle A, the Matthew readings, or the A cycle of readings, when we get to the third, fourth, and fifth Sundays of Lent, we've got these expansive passages from the Gospels. You almost need an intermission. In a sense, they provide a shorter version, but the shorter version doesn't do justice to the text because it all needs to be spoken. And the beauty of it, it could be spun into a mini-series because of the details, the layers, the amount of material. Last weekend, if you recall, the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman, the woman battling acedia, if you will, the height of sloth, spiritual sloth, in what she had gone through. This weekend, the blindness and the desire for physical and, more importantly, spiritual sight. And next weekend, we'll have Mary and Martha and Lazarus as our companions. So the depth of it, you could just simply parse out pieces of any one of these Gospels to have like a soup starter. You just do a little portion of it and you can make a whole kettle. You can make a whole extensive homily on just parts of what this Gospel today is. But I'm going to cut to the chase, if you will. Allow me to simplify and to narrow our focus. The beauty, at least in my estimation, of what Jesus does in the gospel before us with the man who is blind from birth is that he employs an age-old teaching tool in the midst of this marathon gospel reading. And so you may be familiar with the teaching tool. It's something very simple. It goes like this. First, you tell them what you're going to tell them, and then you tell them, and then you tell them what you told them. Got that? We can go home. That's it. It's just that simple. You tell them what you're going to tell them, and then you tell them, and then you tell them what you told them. So what does that look like in real time? Because the purpose of this particular teaching tool is repetition. How many times the student hears again and again and again What's the bottom line? What's at the core of what we are to learn? And it quickly becomes apparent that the Pharisees refused to learn. Not unique elsewhere in the scriptures. But the purpose also of this gospel is sometimes we don't learn either. And so we need those tools that, okay, one more time with gusto. Come on, one more time. So what does Jesus do? First, Jesus informs his disciples that the man was born blind. Why? They were trying to place blame. It happens a lot. It's part of the human condition. Somebody has to be at fault. Somebody else did this, and so we can point them out and humiliate them or string them up or whatever the case may be. But Jesus clarifies it. He informs his disciples that the man was born blind so that the works of God might be made visible through him. It's not a matter of blame. It's an avenue for God to manifest God's glory. That's what he tells them first. Next, Jesus informs the disciples that he is the light of the world. In order to reinforce the statement, he said, in case you need a proof, here it is. He spits on the ground. He makes some mud. He smears it on the man's eyes. He tells him to go to the pool to wash. And what happens? He can see. He tells him what he's going to tell him, that God's works are being manifest. And then he tells him, because he does it. Okay, and then finally, Jesus finds the man who has received the gift of sight, asks him if he believes in the Son of Man, and tells the man, you have seen him, the one who is speaking with you is he. There it is. All the layers, all the testimonies, grilling the man first, not believing him, grilling his folks, and they do a nice quick sidestep. He's old enough, let him talk for himself. Comes back full circle. So, with that in mind, what is Jesus trying to teach us? The blind man's healing becomes a manifestation of God's goodness and grace. It has absolutely nothing to do with whose sin it was that caused the man to be born blind. Stop blaming. Stop pointing a finger. The beauty of the gospel that I celebrated with the Irish community this morning would be the gospel of the day, this Saturday, was the Pharisee and the tax collector. You remember that one? You know, and the Pharisee gets up there all puffed up, you know, reading off everybody else's sins, telling people how wonderful he is, which is radically contrasted against the tax collector, who can't even raise his head to God and identifies himself as a sinner. The tax collector, despite maybe his profession, is the one that's in right relationship with God. He goes home, as the scripture, that gospel passage ends, he goes home justified. and the Pharisee has learned nothing. Here we are again with the Pharisees, and they're still slow on the intake. The Pharisees simply don't get it. They are just as blind at the end of the encounter as they were at the beginning. Perhaps even worse, because they had the opportunity. And how often that happens in our lives. We miss the opportunities of God's visitation. Scriptures are woven again and again and again throughout with how God has visited his people, how God has come to his people, how God longs to be in relationship with his people. That's you and me. And we miss it for whatever reason, whatever blocks, whatever distractions, maybe because we're too busy pointing our finger and blaming somebody else about something, whatever it is. They had the opportunity and they missed it. We have opportunities at time and we miss it. The Pharisees had the chance through the gift of faith to have their eyes opened and they refused. For the evangelist John, seeing is not believing. Rather, believing is seeing. You see as a result of faith. Faith is the one that moves us to insight. Of course, the rationalists among us will demand hard proofs before they believe. Many doubt and reject the existence of God because it cannot be scientifically proven. They will be surprised when they die. In the gospel that we heard, the Pharisees object to the notion that they are blind, believing that they see better than the others because, they are who they are. Jesus reacts to their insistence that they see clearly, given their refusal to appreciate what has happened to the man blind from birth. Jesus recognizes this as a sign that their minds are already made up and that no facts will change them, to which he pronounces the judgment. If you have a chance, go back and revisit those last couple of lines of the gospel. They're crippling. Basically, he says, I can't help you. You refuse to see. Therefore, your sin remains. They had a dance, they had an encounter with salvation, the freedom from their sins, and yet they refused. So on this fourth Sunday of Lent, we gather as believers, and Christ calls each of us to a new understanding of faith. You've had this tremendous day together, and hopefully different ways, different encounters, being together, talking with each other, the talks you received, the conversations you had, the encounters with grace, all of these have given you a deeper, more vibrant understanding of faith. Jesus challenges us to move beyond the limited vision of our human tendencies, to place ourselves where we become, in turn, the light of the world, that we are transformed by the one who has the ability to transform us. As we stand before, as men attending this conference, claiming to belong to Christ, are the works of God being made visible through you? Ultimately, that's the question for any of us, myself too. As I always say, just because I get to wear the pointy hat and carry the big staff, I'm on for the same reality, because ultimately, we stand before him. That's why we're here. We stand before the one who is forever the light of the world. He is the one that has the ability and does make all things new. He is the one to remove sin. He is the one to carry us into eternity. And so what is our relationship with the one who was hung on the tree? Hopefully it's ever growing, ever expanding, deeper as a result of the gathering of this time being together today. Because the question always before us, as the gospel puts it, are we instruments, you and I, wherever we find ourselves in our families, in our workplaces, among our friends, with the stranger? Are we the means by which God's works are being made visible? Our world so desperately needs that now. Not that it hasn't always needed it, but it seems like things have become a little more acute, a little more intensified. Now more than ever, we need people, we need men who will be bold in standing up for the truth, his truth. Not my truth, no one else's truth, his truth. Because anything that contradicts his truth, you'll have problems. And so my prayers for you in this Eucharist, that you may boldly, unashamedly profess and live your faith, now more than ever, to make Christ known in the worlds in which you walk, whatever those are. To be light, to be salt, to be yeast, to be catalysts for change in his truth. That's what ultimately will be transformative. We know that all things are possible in him. And so again, we commend ourselves to him. We trust in his mercy and love, and we ask him to lead us forward into his truth.